Hello, Bruce here again. This is the fifth and final segment on the upgrading of the basic kit that produced this Lycoming Coal Tipple. In update number 4, I had promised you some sound and light show, so thought I would start this video off with that. You can see that the sound system and the lights do indeed work. In this installment, I just want to cover the few things that we didn't cover in installment 4. The tower is now glued to the back of the structure. The roof is on and weathered. Talk more about that weathering in a minute. We put the smokestack on. I did not use the heavy wooden dowel that they provided. I used some evergreen styrene tubing, and talk a little bit more about that later. The stairs are glued on and the railings are made, and I'll show you how I made those railings as well. And that should be it for this series on seriously upgrading a commercial structure kit. Alright, let's start with the weathering on the roof. If you did look at my video I did separately on just working with this evergreen styrene corrugated siding, you saw that I was using artist oils and drawing these rust lines down using odorless mineral spirits, and I've done that on models for years and never had a problem. I don't know whether, I certainly was using a different brand of spray paint on the roof. It could be that that is the issue that gave me problems at the end of that video, or it could have been that I hadn't let the paint cure long enough. But after respraying the roof, I did not want to take the chance once again to mess it up with the mineral spirits. So I dug into my collection and came up with 2 artist oils that are acrylic, so water-based. They're from Winsor & Newton. They're Galleria line. And I used those 2. I mixed them together on a palette in about a ratio of 3/4 of their raw umber, raw sienna, and only 1/4 of their raw umber. Mixed it together good, and gave me about the color rust I was looking for. Then I used the exact process of putting a small dab on with a toothpick and drawing it down with a flat paintbrush, but only now, instead of dipping it in mineral spirits, I dipped it in a little bit of warm water. The process worked very well, and I guess this is what I'll do from now on, so I don't have to risk knowing what kind of paint I used on the base. And you can see the effect that we got on the roof there, and in person it's quite pleasing actually. Okay, the smokestack. To make the smokestack I used Evergreen Scale Models rod and tube assortment number 217. And there's some solid rods in there, there's some hollow tubes in there, different diameters. And the nice thing about a couple of those diameters is that a smaller one will fit right inside of a larger one without any slop. It really works quite well. So I've used this before when I wanted to make these joint lines in a smokestack and plus a flat top on it. So what you will find is if you want to cut thin slices of the larger tube, very thin. I use a razor saw, and then I put them on a piece of 600 grit emery cloth and just keep rubbing it until it gets thinner and thinner. But this is quite thick, the wall on that. And so what I've done in the past and did again this time is I cut off a piece. It was a bit longer than this initially. Chucked the bottom part here into my electric drill and put it into my vise, and then I held a file against the the tubing as it spun until I got that diameter down a bit. And I don't know, you might be able to, especially if I get my hand out of the way here, you might be able to see a step, if I put it up maybe against the roof, where it got thinner up here, and I got it down to a thinness of the wall on the tubing that I was happy with, and then I took my slices off of that. Positioned them, put a little bit of MEC on it, or some Testors liquid plastic glue, and then painted it black and a little rust color, and that's my smokestack. I'm thinking about lowering it a little bit. It would look nice with some guy wires going, but I want this bottom part of the roof to remain removable so I can get to the sound system. So I'm gonna not add any guide wires. I'll leave this off now. Okay, moving to the stairs. Let's just take a look at those railings and so forth. All right. Now, I made the railings out of 3x3 uprights and 2x3 rails, just like I did on the railing around the deck up here. And I did it obviously before gluing the stairs in place. And the way I did it was just cutting all my uprights to the same length, about 3 3/4 scale feet, with a 45-degree angle cut on the top. And once I got them all cut, I started gluing them without a jig, but I did use a piece of graph paper, and I'll just show you the procedure that I used. And it gave me good results, and it has in the past too. Because those railings on stairs are a bit of a fussy thing and a bit of a pain in the neck. So let me come down onto the graph paper here a minute and show you what I do. Try not to have my hands in the way. This is a set of stairs that's in progress, but I didn't have a nice long length of stairing to use as an example. Every one I make I glue into place. So picture the steps going all the way up instead of just a few at the bottom. But this will suffice to show you what I do. So I get these lined up diagonally down a set of squares, and let's see if I might have to actually come closer and drop this further so you can see it. So I have those at 45 degrees, and I have my uprights cut with the 45-degree angle on it. I put a dab of glue in two places. Let's say I'm going to glue it on this middle step. On the very edge, I put a little dab of glue right against the riser, and then on the front of the step right above it, right on the edge. And then with this down on the paper again, and I'm going to work on the side that is down on the paper itself. I take this, set it into glue, and I use the, see if I can get my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on here. Yeah, I think you can get the idea. That it's got glue on it, and then to get it vertical, I just line it up with one of those lines. And once the glue sets a little bit, I go 5 or 6 steps up, however many, and do the same thing again. And again, you can slide these now, get it lined up with one of the vertical lines, and when you're all done, if you keep this kind of at that 45-degree angle all the way, and then this plumb with one of these vertical lines, you'll get a nice set of railings, which you can see in the picture here. So once they're all glued in place on one side, let's say this back side, I come back and just put a little touch of ACC on each joint down at the stair level to solidify them in place. And lay it flat, and then on its side, like this, right? Lay it flat, and then glue the top railing on. And again, once it's tacked a little bit with alines, then you come back and hit it with your ACC, and then you can put the middle one in place. And that's the way I did it. It takes, a set of tweezers. It takes a little bit of steady hands, which is getting more and more difficult for me, but in the end you get a decent look out of it. Found a figure whose hand was just about at the level of the railing, so I glued him in place, and that's it. I'm going to carefully put this aside right now until such time as I have the space for it on the layout, and then I'll install it. But overall, if you really go back and look at the series of videos, you'll see just how many upgrades we made to this basic kit. And so I urge you that when you open a kit, and look, I build some kits just as they were designed, obviously, but many times I look at it and say, okay, I see what the manufacturer had in mind, but what can this kit become with a little bit of tweaking? And that's what I urge you to do. Okay, till we speak again.